Hi, my name is Matari Manyisa. I am an admitted advocate of the High Court of South Africa, and I'm here to answer some of the questions that have been posed by members of the public regarding the legal profession and the ins and outs. Wow. Is it fair for Besta to be tried considering that he was previously sentenced? Well, definitely it is fair for Thabo Besta to be tried. Even though he was previously sentenced to life, it's actually very important that he's tried again because he did escape prison and he was living his life in the last 2 years or so as a person who, as a normal member of the public, getting in and out of prison, going on holidays and so forth. And obviously his escape was orchestrated by other people, which is why it's important for him to go through trial again so that a lot more can come to light, so that we can discover who are the people that helped him with the escape, because there's a lot more to the story than Besta just escaping. He didn't act on his own. He was supported by people. There were people that helped him. There were people that orchestrated the escape and everything. And those people also need to be brought to task. So it's very important that he's tried again, even though people believe that it's a waste of state resources. Yeah. So, how do you decide how much to charge a client? What determines legal fees? Okay, so I charge hourly rate of, let's say, 1.5. And that would mean that a day, the maximum to charge, for instance, is 10 hours. So that would mean that I discussed that, okay, so basically 1.5 times 10, that's my daily fee, which is 15,000. I'm a lawyer, not a mathematician. But yes, that would be 15,000 Rand per day. And then they would have to speak to clients and ask if clients is amenable to paying those fees. And if clients is okay with it, then that's how you proceed. So obviously, if you have to go to court, that's an appearance. You charge differently for an appearance. If you're appearing in court, you charge your day fee, despite the drafting and reading of documents and vetting of contracts and so forth and other things, that's a completely different thing, and you also charge per hour for that. Can one fake mental illness or health issues to avoid punishment? It's highly unlikely to do that because if you're going to claim that you're mentally ill or you're struggling with some form of a mental illness, then obviously you're going to have to be subjected to assessment by professionals, health professionals or mental health professionals. You'd have to go to your psychotherapist, your psychologist and psychiatrist and so forth, and they would be the only ones as experts that would be able to identify whether or not it's true that you're suffering from a mental illness. And even with that, just because you're suffering from a mental illness, it doesn't mean that you won't be subject to some form of an institution. You might not go to prison, but if they do find that you are suffering from something, they might then commit you to another institution, which I don't think is better than prison, so that's not really a way to escape liability. If it so happens that you really do suffer from a mental illness, then it's to your benefit that they determine this and then they declare that yes, this person is suffering from mental health problems, and obviously that way you can get help. But if you're just doing it to evade paying for your sins or your crimes, then it barely ever pays off. It's unlikely. Yeah. Okay. So, what do you do when a client admits to you privately that they've killed someone? Do you still defend them? Well, in the legal profession, there is something called the cab rank rule, which means that you have to represent your client basically without fear, favor, or prejudice. Every time when a person gets admitted as a legal practitioner, whether as an attorney or an advocate, we take an oath. And this oath is basically that you're going to administer justice to the best of your ability without fear, favor, or prejudice. So if somebody tells you that they committed a crime, you are not allowed to judge that person and decide not to take that matter because they told you that they killed someone. Your job is to make sure that you mitigate the best possible outcome for this person. So your job is not to decide whether this person should go to heaven or hell, or whether this person is guilty or not, even if they've told you what they've done. The thing that you can do is to make sure that you represent your client to the best of their ability. Remember that, for instance, if you are a defense lawyer, like I would be because I don't work for the state, I'm not a prosecutor, then it's not my responsibility to prove that this person is guilty beyond reasonable doubt. It's the state's job to do that. My only job is to create reasonable doubt. So even if the person has told me that they've committed the crime, it doesn't necessarily mean that now I need to fight, and go to war and come back and to prove that this person didn't do it. All I need to do is just make sure that I can mitigate the best possible outcome for my clients and make sure that there is reasonable doubt. And also, this doesn't mean that when a person tells you that they didn't do something, you must mislead the court. That's something completely different. You can't now go to the court and completely tell lies. That's wrong. You're not supposed to do that. But you do work with whatever you have, and you just make sure that you create loopholes wherever you can. So next question, have you ever lied in court? No, I don't think so. I think I've twisted things, but not really lying. It's not lying, it's almost the truth. Half truths, maybe? White lies, maybe? Yeah, definitely not a complete lie, but just a white one. Yeah. What can you do if you happened to be requested to represent someone who killed your mother? Wow. Obviously, this one, it's straightforward. There's going to be a conflict of interest, and you can simply just refuse to take a case if there's going to be a conflict of interest. And by conflict of interest, I mean that you have your own personal conflicting views or conflicting ideas about this situation, and you are not going to be able to be objective. So if you're not going to be objective as a lawyer, then it's best not to represent someone. So obviously, if somebody killed my mother, God forbid, I would not be able to represent that person because we'd have conflicting interests. That person wants to not go to jail, and I want this person to pay for the crime that they committed. So definitely that is an instruction that you can refuse to take. Where can people go to get free legal advice or help? Okay, so people that cannot afford to get legal advice can always go to Legal Aid South Africa. There's really great lawyers there in Legal Aid, especially criminal lawyers, they're the best. But yeah, you can go to Legal Aid South Africa for free legal advice. Also, Legal Aid is also always available in the courtrooms. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you are arrested and you can't afford a lawyer and the state offers to hire an attorney or appoint a lawyer for you, that would be Legal Aid. So it would always be a great idea to go with that and have somebody. It's always better to have a lawyer than not to have a lawyer. And this misconception that Legal Aid people don't know what they're doing is absolute rubbish. There's actually really great lawyers at Legal Aid. So what is the most unethical thing you have ever seen another lawyer do? I think for me, the most unethical thing for me would be, some of the things that some of our colleagues do when they deal with cases of medical negligence, especially, and road accident funds, where they are dealing with people that have been injured or people that have suffered severe damages or mental damage, mental illness, or people that have been disabled as a result of car accidents and all sorts of things that result in like exorbitant amounts of money that they're supposed to receive from insurance or from the negligence of a doctor, from the hospital and so forth. And these attorneys then just don't give these clients their money. Like they fight the case, they get a good 20 million rand, and they give a client like 120,000 rand. And because you're poor, you've never had that much money in your account before. You're a lay person. You don't even know how much this person has received, and they get that money and it's in their trust fund, and they don't pay it to the beneficiary or to the person who it's supposed to go to. And they just give this person a petty amount of money and they keep the rest for themselves. I think that's the most unethical thing I've ever seen people doing. Do I have my own lawyer? Yes, I do. I have plenty of them. Some of them don't know that they're my lawyers though, because I haven't officially hired them, but I'm just sitting here like, if something happens, I'm calling you, But I do have my own lawyer though that I do call whenever I need some form of advice and type of things, and I feel like I'm not being objective, because you can't know everything, number one, and also number two, you can't always be objective in situations that affect you personally. Sometimes you just like, no, I'm definitely right, when you also could be wrong or you could be missing something. So it's important to always have another lawyer who's going to bring you back and say, okay, this is what I think you should do. Yeah, so I do. What sentencing do I predict for Thabo Besta and Nandipha Magudumana? Wow. I cannot say that I can predict any sentencing for Nandipha or Thabo because, number one, I am not their counsel. I don't know the merits and the demerits of their case. Just like everybody else, I am seeing everything that's happening from the outside. I'm experiencing everything regarding that case at the same time that members of the public are. All I know is what the media has been showing us and what social media has been saying, but I don't really know what happened. I don't know the facts. I've never had a consultation with them. I've never been told that this is what really happened. This is what you know, this is what the circumstances are. So like I said, I don't know the demerits or the merits of the case, and that way I cannot determine or even estimate how long they'd be sentenced for, you know. I think that would be a question that would be best answered by their lawyers. Yeah, I think that's it. My name is Matari Manyisa, and this was Briefly Us.